Right, I'm going through the RF section again. It's pretty obvious it can only be capacitors. I've changed and checked a number of the capacitors here at the very front end of the radio. Just get the viewfinder open. I can't see what's going on. Okay, so we've been checking this capacitor here. That capacitor's fine. This is only a decoupling capacitor for the cathode or the heater, so that's also fine. These two caps were replaced because they're out of spec. And I've been struggling to find this C69. It's a 3 nan that connects to the oscillator. I didn't actually notice this. This is a different circuit I'm using. This is the actual manufacturer's circuit, and this is all part of the oscillator. And this is what I said. I thought that there was a problem with the the stage wasn't matched to the local oscillator. Like this part was well off frequency. So I've just found this capacitor, and it's right on the back of the cabinet. It's not shown in the manual anywhere in the layout. So let me show you what I've found. Now this capacitor, as I say, is supposed to be 3 nan. So if we just look at the the LCR meter, we're using this LCR meter at the moment because, and of course it turns off when you need it. So we just turn this meter back on again. Put the camera into a better position. Right, what we need to do is null out the meters because I'm using longer leads. So we'll go capacitance. We're using 1 kilohertz. We're going to rel and calibrate the leads. Now this is supposed to be a 3 nanofarad capacitor. It's on the back of the unit, as I say. Now if you look at the meter, the best I'm getting out of that capacitor is 56 picofarad. So that is basically, that capacitor's open. Now that's part of the critical part of the matching circuit. This is all part of the tuned circuit. If this capacitor's the wrong value, this thing's going to be running far too fast. And you're never going to get anything sensible coming in. So what I've got to do is I've got to find a 3 nan capacitor. Now, short of going through all my capacitors and finding one, I'm going to struggle with that. But what I will do is I'm going to connect up the decade box, and we'll try the radio and just see if it works any better with the decade box connected. So there's our decade box here. Zoom out a bit so you can see. This is back to the Sony at the moment. I'm afraid this I left my other camera at work. I'm on holiday at the moment, so I don't really want to go back there to get it. So let's connect this up. Now, if this is what the problem is, the radio should come to life as soon as we basically dial in the right capacitance. So I'll connect it up. So basically it goes to the solder tag on the back, and hopefully so that's about aerial. I've just connected up. The other connection goes to the chassis connection, and this is part of our LC network basically, so I'm going to connect it to there. So at the moment the capacitor box is open. Switch it on and let it warm up. So basically what we've done, just to confirm, is I've wired my capacitor box across this C69 here. So I think this capacitor's open, so this thing's just running sort of willy-nilly and sort of not working properly at all. Oh, there's noise coming through the radio. That's a start. So let's have a listen. So let's see if we can tune anything. I'll find a weak signal if I can, and then I'll adjust the... Okay, we've got nothing now, so I'm going to increase the capacity to 100 puff. Now I need 300 puff. This is 100 puff. Okay, there's a bit. 200 puff. It's working a bit better than it was. So let's go 300 puff. Well, that's a big improvement on what it was. It looks like it's not that critical actually. I'm at 400 puff now, and it's... So you'd think it was pretty critical. It's a matching circuit. 500 puff, 6, 7, 8, 9. Seems to work better at Oh, it's supposed to be 3 nan, isn't it? That's where it should be. I was turning the picofarad dial around. Now you've got to bear in mind all these leads are in the air and it's all susceptible to RF interference, so anything that's in all the lights and things are all interfering with all this. So let's go back to, that's how it was. It's 10 nan. Looks like you can put quite a bit of capacitance across there and get the radio to work properly. That's at 100 nan. It's pretty distorted, but obviously yeah, the FM, the IF's probably not correctly aligned. But we're getting reception now, so that's excellent. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to unplug it and replace that capacitor. Well, I think we have signs of life.
The break pace, we won.
Now it's clearly not aligned correctly.
Well, I think
It's almost like it comes in with a bit of a... It's got a bit of instability as well. That could be just IF alignment. Like a microphonic effect from... it could be that valve actually. So it's like the... Interesting. Let's see if this shield helps the instability. Bloody microphonic. I haven't got the back case on it, of course, but it is very microphonic. Let me just check out that capacitor I haven't put in there. Isn't sort of... You've never come across a radio that's microphonic. The whole thing is almost like a microphone. How odd. I've never ever come across, I've come across microphonicity before, but nothing like that. Let's take the bench. This is very strange, I've never come across this before. Now I don't know why it's so bad. It could be that the IF strip's unstable.
Right. Helping to make them roared.
So let's try and peak it up so we can get a bit more reception out of it, because it is still deaf, and then we'll have a look at seeing if the microphonicity goes away when it's aligned properly. It's only microphonic when it's tuned into a signal.
There wasn't this like comedy career.
Southwest Wales, so
It's not doing it now.
being in Wales was very important to him.
This has got to be the weirdest radio I've ever come across. Okay, let's have a tweak of the local oscillator.
That kind of thing going. Yeah. So it wasn't going anywhere.
So it looks like 93.5. Just check that.
Thinking this will be the thing that I will then move on. So you went in and you watched.
I think I'm going to put the signal generator on because I'm not entirely sure what's transmitting on what at the moment. So let's just generate a known carrier so we can actually set our oscillator correctly. Now I might need to adjust the lengths of the tuning slugs to get the matching correct again. So let's go for 90 megahertz. RF level of 10 millivolts. So it's run by the aerial lead, so that should pick that up easily enough. So it's the radio tuned to 90 megahertz. Should be generating a FM modulated signal. Nothing. Turn the volume up would help.
Well, we done it because it meant there was a late license in that room.
So all the entire career is fueled by drink and how to get a drink.
That's the problem. And then I took it. Oh, I didn't take it. Yeah. Anyway, I tried to still
Okay, just checking to make sure there won't be much into a harmonic.
We were a room above the pub, then they had a bigger room downstairs,
right.
And that started. Tell you,
People are
don't
coming in.
see you.
Yeah.
That people are always.
Okay, so it's working.
So yeah, there was a night.
Now, I think all that's going to be required now is a full alignment.
And were you still a solicitor?
Yeah.
Are we doing it in the days?
Big night out was on Thursday nights, and for the
So
rest
that
of
brings it in a lot more if I pull this tuning gang out, which
So did
suggests
you,
that
then,
capacitor I
when
put
you
on
take
is
out,
probably a bit too
were you a
big.
solicitor throughout that time?
Yeah, I just took 12 weeks off work.
So there's still an alignment problem, even though we got obviously the thing to improve vastly by changing that capacitor. There's still a problem with the alignment. It can't really be detuned that badly out to make it work properly. I think the next thing to do is to possibly check just make sure none of those other capacitors exist. If they do, get them replaced, and then come back and see if we can get the alignment a bit better. Okay, the RF front end seems to be working reasonably well now. I'll show you what. Pick up some stations. What happens is, if it tunes into a certain frequency, it locks the IF strip up. It almost like stalls the IF or swamps the IF. And I think that's possibly a problem with the detector valve. Which is like an EABC80. You see, it works fine. And well, I think it's the IF blocking it out. If I give a load of IF signal through, put some IF through. You hear, if I tune into radio 3 on 93.5, the IF gets swamped by something. I don't know if the thing's going unstable on the unit or what it is, but I'm certainly picking up signals now. The RF amplifier is definitely working now. But it's incredibly microphonic as well. I've never heard a radio so microphonic. Now that's the valve. Now I'm not sure if this valve is suited for this radio. It's incredible. I've never known anything like it. And I wonder if there's an internal short with the valve and it's getting hot. So the next thing to do is to try and source another valve, maybe, see if that's the problem. In the meantime, the only other problem I can possibly think what's happening with the FM when it's like stalling like this, let's turn it off for a minute, is possibly that we've got a balance capacitors here on the detector. Where are they? These capacitors here, they're all part of the sort of like control for the detector, for the discriminator. And if these are leaky or open circuit, they can cause really strange effects. So there's this one here, and I also spotted another electrolytic. It's possibly, no, I think that's the main supply capacitor. That checked good. So the next step to do is to change those two capacitors and try and find out why the IF is stalling.